Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Malaysians, I know you are still on holiday, and whilst enjoying the company of your loved ones and good food, I'd like to talk to you today about our country. And I say this with a deep sense of concern and also with a great hope. Concern because we always find ourselves at crossroads where racial tensions between Malays and Chinese in particular, and I think lately it is at their worst since independence. I hope and I believe in the strength of the wisdom of our people that we need to come together and find a way out, find a way forward. You all know Malaysia was born out of diversity, historical necessity, but that's always been our strength. Our founding fathers, despite their differences, managed to build a nation where people of various races and religions could coexist. However, over the last 60 years, this harmony envisioned by the leaders has eroded. Instead of embracing dialogue and understanding, we have allowed our differences to be exploited for political gain. Instead of fostering unity, we have been driven apart by fear, suspicion, and intolerance. Today I want to talk to you on the importance of free expression, importance of free speech, as a means to mend the fractures in our society. I firmly believe that only through open discourse we can identify and resolve the problems that divide us. We must learn to be generous with one another, to listen, to tolerate, and to engage with differing viewpoints without rushing to silence those who offend us. One of the primary reasons of racial tension that have escalated is the existence of race-based political parties. Now, there's nothing we can do with that. But the reality is that these parties, instead of working together toward national unity, have often prioritized racial loyalty over Malaysian identity. Sometimes they prioritize religion. So politicians, eager to consolidate their support, manipulate racial sentiment, religious sentiment, portraying one group as a threat to another. A common strategy employed is the weaponization of police reports. If a politician from one racial group makes an offensive remark, instead of engaging in meaningful dialogue, their political opponent will immediately lodge a police report or rush to the lawyer's office. And the same happens in reverse, creating a cycle of accusations and counter-accusations. And the result? A culture of fear and suppression. We have extensive laws, strict laws, governing free speech, related to race, religion, and the monarchy. These laws, while intended to prevent hate speech and maintain peace, have also been used to stifle legitimate discussion. The moment someone expresses a controversial opinion, they risk being reported, investigated, or even charged. This does not solve the problem. It buries them. Instead of allowing grievances to be discussed and addressed, we are creating an environment where no one dares to speak freely. When speech is restricted, so is the ability to understand and resolve conflicts. Every community in Malaysia has its own concerns, economic struggles, education gaps, cultural, religious preservation, political representation, and everything else. However, because we cannot openly discuss these issues without fear of repercussions, the problems remain unresolved. This suppression leads to several negative consequences. The resentment grows unchecked. When grievances cannot be expressed openly, they do not disappear, they fester. People begin to feel marginalized, and their angers grow in silence. Misunderstanding persists. Without open discussions, stereotypes and prejudices flourish. Instead of engaging with one another, we retreat into racial bubbles, making assumptions about other communities without even hearing their perspectives. And of course, extremism gains ground. When moderate voices are silenced, extreme voices become louder. Without the ability to challenge extremist rhetoric through open debate, radical ideas take root and become the dominant narrative. And all this will lead to a national progress being stalled. Our country, the country that cannot have honest conversations about its problem, will struggle, will never progress. Policies will continue to be shaped by racial politics rather than national interests. So what is the path forward? We need to embrace free expression and generosity. And I say this to all the political parties. We need to change this. How do we break free from this cycle of suppression and division? The answer lies in generosity. Not just generosity in material terms, but generosity of spirit. We must be generous with our patience, with our tolerance, and with our willingness to listen. We must first encourage open dialogue, not censorship. We must move away from the instinct to silence those we disagree with. We must move away from the police station. If someone makes an offensive remark, the solution is not to rush to the police, but to engage in discussion. Let us challenge bad ideas with good ideas, not with threats of legal action. For instance, if a leader from one community expresses concerns about economic disparity, we should not immediately assume it is an attack on another group. Instead of reacting with hostility, we should seek to understand the underlying issues. Only through honest conversation can we address these challenges. While our racial and religious identities are important, we must not supersede our identity as Malaysians. We must not forget that. We must shift our focus from being Malay first, Chinese first, Indian first, to a Malaysian first. It requires effort from everyone, from all the individuals, communities, and also from our leaders. Politicians must stop using racial sentiments as a tool for power. They should promote policies that benefit all Malaysians. I would prefer if the government also, change the legal framework. It is too restrictive. You do not allow discussions, full stop, on race, religion, monarchy. It is important that we should discuss them. We need to train our people. We need to reform the laws so that broad and often misused ideas that are used for political purposes can be dispelled with. This does not mean that anything should be allowed, of course. There must be consequences of free speech. Those who incite violence and promote hatred, we must act on them. But not all agreements or not all disagreements are acts of hostility. Now, I like to see that this responsibility is assumed by all, by leaders as well as by us, ordinary Malaysians. Change can only begin with us. When we hear an opinion we disagree with, let us respond with reason, not anger. When we feel offended, let us seek understanding before seeking punishment. When we encounter prejudice, Let us educate rather than retaliate. I believe in a Malaysia where people do not live in fear of speaking their minds. I believe in a Malaysia where Malays, Chinese, Indian, Kadazan, whatever, Iban, we must be able to express our concerns without being accused of hatred. I believe in a Malaysia where unity is not enforced by law, but nurtured through respect and generosity. For too long, we have been told that racial harmony means avoiding difficult conversations. But true harmony comes not from silence, but from understanding. It is time we trust each other enough to speak freely. It is time we show each other enough generosity to listen without fear or resentment. Malaysia is at a turning point. We can continue down this path of censorship, division, racial politics, religious politics, or we can choose a new direction. Open dialogue, free expression, and the search for unity. I urge you, each of you, to be part of this change. Let us create a culture where ideas, no matter how uncomfortable, can be discussed openly. Let us nurture an environment where offense does not lead to punishment, but to conversation. Together we can build a better Malaysia. Thank you.